welcome to Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 16 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 15 of A Game of Thrones, which is Sansa 1.
Sansa gets her...
Finally, we get Sansa's POV. We were complaining about that earlier.
Right. Good stuff. So you know the drill by now. We'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
So we'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, and indulge in a little pedantry. Be sure to check out our show notes. They provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note about the chapter. How are you?
I'm alright. How you doing?
Not too bad.
It's been a while.
I'm sporting a pair of Tully socks.
You are, yes.
From my
I like them.
Christmas bumper crop of Game of Thrones socks.
Yeah, we both got socks. We both got socks. Although you got 15, I only got 12.
Ah, so. Well. I have a family who really love them.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the difference there. So, I have a somewhat funny story. At least I thought it was funny. So
Let us be the judge.
Yes. So I have YouTube TV, and I was scrolling through the channels looking for something to watch. And did you remember the movie Triple X by Vin Diesel? Came out early 2000s.
I haven't seen it, but I'm aware of its existence.
Okay, yeah. Well, I saw it was playing on some channel, and it reminded me of a situation I found myself in about when it had first come out on, back then, probably VHS or maybe DVD. So Stacy and I had these couple friends, and Stacy was really good friends with the wife, and I was really good friends with the husband. And Stacy and the wife were going out, and so I was emailing. This was back before texting and all that. I was emailing with the husband, and I said, "Hey, you want to hang out?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure. What do you want to do?" And I said, "Do you want to watch Triple X? Stacy has no interest in it." And he responded with, "I'll skip the porn."
I had a feeling that's where that was going.
And I was like, "Oh, that's not what I meant at all." So in his mind,
you were inviting him around, just the two of you,
with my infant son. Sit around and watch some porn.
That's good though.
Man. That every time I even hear Vin Diesel's name, that's the first thing that pops into my head. I'm not sure that's a good thing, but
all right. So
anyway,
we'll get down to business with a quick recap. We are sitting on opposite sides.
We are.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It is a strange thing. We've switched seats.
It is forced. I got a Surface Pro, and it only has one USB port. It's on the wrong side from how we normally sit, so we had to switch so I could plug the microphone in.
Yeah, interesting. I just had a thought. We could have sat on the other side of the table, but that would have been more weird, perhaps.
Stared at the wall.
So we'll get down to business with a quick recap of what Sansa was up to previously. Last time we saw Sansa, she was being charming to Princess Myrcella in the sewing circle, and simultaneously saying mean things about Jon, and being a bit of a menace to Arya too. Since then, she's presumably mourned what happened to Bran, said her goodbyes to Winterfell, her mum, her two younger brothers, and her half-brother. Oh, and her older brother. I missed him.
Oh, right, yeah. Rob stayed behind too.
But she's en route to King's Landing with her father and the King's party. Yep. Kelly, why don't you give us the summary of this chapter?
All right. So Sansa and Arya have been invited to spend the day riding in the royal wheelhouse with Queen Cersei and Princess Myrcella. Sansa couldn't be more excited. Her only concern is that Arya is going to ruin things for her, as she has a way of doing. Sansa finds Arya by the river, attempting unsuccessfully to brush the mud out of Nymeria's fur. When Sansa tells her the good news, Arya says she's not going and she doesn't like the queen. Instead, she and her friend Micah are going exploring to find rubies at the ford. For the life of Sansa, she can't understand why her sister would rather ride a smelly horse than eat lemon cakes and recline on feather pillows with the queen. This devolves into a spat, and Sansa walks back to the inn. She doesn't understand how Arya could be her sister. She even once asked her mother if maybe a Grumpkin had taken her real sister. When Sansa returns to the inn, there is a crowd around the wheelhouse. 3 knights have arrived. 2 are Barristan Selmy and Renly Baratheon. The third man, Sir Ilyn Payne, really scares her. He is the king's executioner. When Sansa tries to talk to Sir Ilyn, he stares at her and walks off. And Joffrey explains that King Aerys had his tongue ripped out with hot pincers.
Charming.
Eee. The arrival of the men dictate a change in the plans for the day, and Sansa and Joffrey have a day to themselves without Lady or Sandor Clegane for company, Lady being Sansa's direwolf.
Yeah.
They actually have a nice day with a picnic, and Joffrey even sings to Sansa, so she's not unhappy about life. They hear a noise and investigate. It turns out to be Arya sparring with her friend Micah. Joffrey intervenes and threatens Micah with his sword. Arya whacks Joffrey in the back of the head with her wooden stick, and Micah flees. Joffrey viciously attacks Arya with his sword. She backs up against a tree, and just when it seems that in his rage he might kill her, Nymeria leaps in and bites his arm. Arya calls Nymeria to heal before she does too much damage, and throws Joff's sword, called Lion's Tooth, into the river. She flees with her horse and Nymeria. Sansa fusses over Joffrey, who reminds us of his true colors by snapping malevolently at her to go get help.
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think you and I have different views on this chapter. I think this is a really good chapter. I think this is like, and you're kind of like, eh.
Yeah, kind of. That's a good point.
I like this one a lot. I think it's good.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like a whole lot happened.
Yeah, but I mean, well, there's the whole Sansa meeting Sir Ilian Payne.
Yeah.
And then we also get to meet Barristan Selmy and Renly Baratheon, who I think we've slightly spoiled the meeting of them by talking about them already. Right. You know?
That's true.
And then the fact that Sansa has a nice day with Joffrey, I think, is something that maybe the TV show lost a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
She just fell in love with him because he was the prince.
Right.
Without any sort of caring about what kind of person he was.
Yeah.
He's good looking, and the prince, Sansa fell in love with him.
Good enough.
Yeah.
Check.
Right. But in actual fact, he was kind of charming to her this day.
Right. For a while.
For a while, until he forgot. And... Yeah. But again, we saw evidence that Sansa and Arya are about as different as two sisters could be.
They really are. Just like you had mentioned in previous episode, that the actresses played.
Right. Maybe that's what they were looking for. Actresses who were physically different.
They really very, very different. Sansa is so excited about riding with the royals. Arya really couldn't think of anything worse than being forced to do that.
Yeah.
That I found it funny that Sansa told Arya she better go put on something pretty. I was like, have you met Arya? Yeah. Has that ever happened?
I was a little bit impressed that Arya was cleaning Nymeria's fur. Right. I mean, that felt like progress in the right direction, right. As opposed to rolling in the mud with Nymeria.
Right, yeah. That's how Nymeria got the mud in the fur.
Possibly, place. Yeah.
Sansa thinks Arya is too friendly with the small folk. Kind of goes along with what we've seen so far. Yeah,
that Sansa is pretty stuck up.
Yes.
And Arya is anything but.
Yeah, she's rather unassuming, it seems. And Sansa cannot believe that Arya's friends with Micah, the son of a butcher. And then she says something that's rather harsh. Well, she doesn't say it out loud, but, her internal monologue. She says that just the sight of him was enough to make her sick. I was like, eesh.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah. When you're the daughter of a royal house, you don't have to face the realities of life, like butchering and things like that.
I guess.
But she expresses that she's perplexed that Arya would prefer Micah's company over hers, but should she be? I mean, really?
Does she prefer Arya's company?
She may prefer Arya's company to Micah's company, but who would she prefer Arya to be in the company of? Her or Micah? Right. I would say, go play with Micah.
Yeah, especially since she's afraid that Arya's going to ruin things, as she says, she has a tendency to do. So you would think she might be like, yeah, it's best that you go hunt for rubies.
Yeah.
You don't want to go in the wheelhouse.
Exactly.
You have to put on something pretty. You don't want to do that.
By the way, actually, remind me when we get to pedantry, because I've just thought of another piece of pedantry for this chapter.
Okay.
There's a rich vein of pedantry in this chapter, but I've just thought of another one.
That's why you like this chapter
Maybe
so much.
That's it, yeah.
Sansa seems to be caught up in an unrealistic fantasy world. She's a kid. I get it.
It's not that unrealistic, though. Not for her. You know what I mean?
I guess. She just is... She's always so caught up comparing life to fantasy stories and the stories that old Nan tells. And
yeah.
She literally thinks to herself, she just wants life to be nice and pretty like they are in the songs.
Yeah. But then, imagine if Joffrey was a really nice guy. then her life really could be like
True.
the romantic songs of yore.
That is true. Yep, she become queen and raised little princes and princesses. And yeah, she's close.
Yeah, she's close.
Closer than most of the rest of the realms.
Just for one sociopathic little monster.
So Arya and Micah are going looking for rubies at the fort of the Trident. And just real quick, I wanted to explain what that means in case anybody is confused.
When I first read it, I just thought that this was an area known for rubies. You mean like
ruby production? Like not production. But
production.
the ruby production line. I need one of those.
You don't know how the world works, do you? Or maybe you do. Maybe this is just your deeply held belief.
Don't they just make those things? So this is in reference to Rhaegar's armor. He wore a black plate armor with the three-headed dragon of House Targaryen decorated in rubies on its breastplate. And during the battle at the Trident, Robert crushed Rhaegar's chest in with his warhammer, and it scattered the rubies throughout the river, and the area became known as Ruby Ford.
Huh. That's interesting, actually, because consulting, I don't have them with me, but I've been looking carefully at my Targaryen socks.
Right.
There's quite a lot of red on that, so that's quite a lot of rubies.
There's a lot of rubies.
Yeah, I mean, if it was a good size sigil on the front of his breastplate. But aren't rubies a little bit fragile? They're not like diamonds.
You're asking the wrong guy. I thought they were made on the production line. So
it really depends on the production quality.
Right. If you have a good plant.
But if you smashed someone in the chest, you
Yeah.
break the rubies rather than
rubies
just
would shatter.
That's what I think would happen.
Interesting.
So
I don't know.
perhaps they're looking for shards of rubies here. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure on my ruby toughness. But I have a
Maybe
feeling.
if there's any ruby experts out there listening, you could let us know.
Please. Yes, please.
We will put it into news and notes the next time around.
So Sansa, after giving up on Arya, goes back to the inn where she meets 3 knights sent to escort the king's parties home. So we get good descriptions of Barristan Selmy, dressed in the brilliant white armour of the King's Guard. Despite his age, looks strong and graceful. We've mentioned before he's the Lord Commander of the King's Guard. The second one is Renly Baratheon, which is the youngest brother of King Robert, and the most handsome man Sansa has ever seen. I hope Joffrey's not listening.
Luckily, she thought that, not said that out loud.
He's tall and powerfully built. Wears green armor, has an antlered helm. He is on the small council,
Along with everyone else in the realm.
apparently. Yeah, he's the Master of Lords and Lord of Storm's End. She seems to like both of them, and they both have sort of good banter with her.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, she. Despite the derogatory comments they make about each other, it seems like they have a pretty good rapport. Renly refers to Barristan as Barristan the Old, and Barristan refers to Renly as a prancing jackanapes.
Which has got to be the greatest put down of all time.
I gotta find a way to use that at some point in my life.
Next time my son doesn't take out the trash, why are you prancing jackanapes?
But it's the third night that she really has issues with. He terrifies her with just his looks alone. They describe him as having pockmarked face and hollow cheeks, only wisps of long gray hair, simple armor with no design, and a huge two-handed greatsword on his back, which we discover why he carries a huge two-handed greatsword. It's because he is the king's executioner. But he must be quite the sight, because the hound, Sandor Clegane, thinks it's him that's scaring her, but she thinks to herself, he's not half as frightening as Sir Ilian. He seems like a pretty frightening character.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean, Sir Ilian, I mean, I guess he must be pretty grim looking then, because he's not got the physical terror that Sandor Clegane would.
Pockmarked face and hollow cheeks, wisps of long gray hair. It sounds like not that terrifying.
Yeah. And on top of it all, he has no tongue, so that probably adds an air of mystery, at least, if nothing else.
Yeah. You never quite know what he's thinking. That's what it is.
So Barristan Selmy, upon discovering who Sansa is, gives a lot of respect to her for her starkness.
Right.
we mentioned earlier that he fought almost to the death to keep Robert off the throne in the battle here at the Trident, actually. This is the scene of where he was gravely wounded. Good choice of words. So he's got reasons not to be a big fan of Ned and Robert, I guess. But both he and Renly definitely give off a personality and warmth that most of the King's Party seem to lack. So.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they were sent out. This party's a drag.
Yeah. But at one point, I noticed this. This is kind of like, I think in the last episode you were kind of obsessed about a line that Kat said to Theon.
Yes.
Or Theon said to Kat, in fact. Yeah.
My house owes yours a great debt.
Right. I kind of like have an obsession of a line in this one, which is, out of the blue, Renly says something which is not offensive to anyone. It's just a comment. And Joffrey looks at him with, and I quote here, a look of pure loathing.
Right. I noticed that too. I don't think I...
Why does Joffrey hate Renly?
Yeah.
What could it possibly be? So, I got some thoughts about that. We'll meander more on that one a little bit later.
Well, in the meantime, Joff and Sansa spend the day riding around and having a rather romantic day. Joff's putting on the charm, and Sansa's eating it all up, and she thinks he's like the prince from famous songs. He certainly looks the part, but is he truly her chivalrous prince? I don't know. I guess we'll see. He was certainly a jerk to Robb and Winterfell, and he calls the Hound dog twice in her presence, and she doesn't seem to pick up on that being a possible clue to his character, that he would refer to another human being as dog. So... I don't know.
Possibly that feeds into the fact that she's terrified of the Hound too. So
maybe
she's like, yes, call him what you want. Treat him terribly, please.
I guess. It was a little bit funny that at the very beginning of the chapter, she tells Arya that she hates riding horses. And then Joff says, let's go for a horse ride. And she says, I love riding horses. Oh, well, the things you do for love.
That reminds me of me and a friend were on a beach in Greece, and we were talking to two girls. And earlier that day, we'd been kind of overindulging while we were on this trip, and we've been talking earlier about not going out that night. Absolutely not. No going out. No staying out late. No drinking.
Right. I think I know where this is going.
And I said to this, because these two girls were attractive, I said, hey, we were talking about going out for a drink later on, and he was like, rather not playing along with me. So yes, I understand entirely why Sansa said what she said.
Yes, opinions change quickly sometimes.
So depending on company.
Yes. So they come across Arya and Micah sword fighting with sticks. They're getting ready to turn back, and by they, I mean Joff and Sansa are getting ready to turn around and head back to the inn at the Crossroads and the wheelhouse, and they hear some whacking of just some snap, snap, snap noise. And so they go to investigate, and they come across Arya and Micah sword fighting with sticks. And Joff acts like quite the jerk and wants Micah to fight him. So Joff has his sword named Lion's Tooth, and he wants Micah to fight him with a wooden stick, which Micah does point out that he says, pick up your sword. And Micah says, it's not a sword, it's a stick. So, Micah might be of common birth and smell like a slaughterhouse. I didn't put that in my summary, but Sansa refers to him smelling like a slaughterhouse because he's the son of a butcher. But he's not dumb. Yeah. So he refuses to pick up that stick and fight the crown prince, which is probably a wise decision.
Yeah. So Joff puts the sword against Micah's face and cuts his cheek.
Yeah. Arya takes umbrage to that.
Yeah. And she whacks him across the back of the head with her wooden sword.
Right. And then we meet the true Joffrey Baratheon. He wheels around and starts slashing that sword at Arya, and using, as Sansa puts it, vile, terrible words.
Oh, by the way, in the TV show, you hear those words.
Oh, yeah. And he might just have killed her. I
think he was going to.
If he would have connected, I think he was intending to kill her. I get his anger. Sansa mentions that his head was bloodied. So, she whacked him pretty good in the back of the head. So, certainly, he's angry. But she's a kid. Yeah. She's a 9-year-old girl. So, you gotta not kill her.
She might have, in retrospect, gone for his sword arm.
Right, yeah.
Make him
whacked
drop
in
the sword or something like that.
Yeah, it
but-
might have been a better... I guess she didn't really think it through. all
No,
the way.
yeah.
But Nymeria to the rescue.
Yeah, good for Nymeria. And it's good that Nymeria responded when Arya calls her off as well, so you
Yes.
can get two out of hand.
Yeah, rip his arm off or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, Nymeria goes after his arm and chomps down on it. So he drops his sword, and Arya picks it up, and he starts blubbering and begging and whimpering to please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me. And instead Arya takes the sword and chucks it into the river.
Yeah. I worry. I worry.
Yes. that we were worried about when Tyrion slapped Joffrey across the face twice, how that was going to affect him. This is a whole new level of affront to our crown prince. So if Sansa missed those previous clues, he's doubled down here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to give him some credit. I mean, literally what happens when they arrive in the clearing and they see the fight happening, Micah catches Arya on the hand, right?
Right, yeah. It stings her knuckles. And so at first it seems like he's just being a jerk and just like, he says, that's my lady's sister you've hit there and all that. And then when he puts the sword to his face, he says, I'm not going to hurt him much. Yeah. So it seems like he's kind of just, he's got all the power. He's just kind of messing around with him a little bit. Unnecessarily so.
Yeah.
Definitely. But Arya doesn't find it very funny.
No. And neither should Sansa.
No. So.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm groping for anything to say in his defense here.
Yeah.
I mean, he is just a bully who likes to be a bully.
Right.
And doesn't like it when a bully gets his just desserts.
No, not so much. But based on her reaction to the fight after Arya runs off with Nymeria and Micah's already run off, she still seems to be blind to his behavior, to the kind of person that he is, because she goes to him and calls him her poor prince and says, look what they did to you, and tries to touch his hair tenderly. I'm using hand gestures, of course.
Yeah, that's good.
Because that's how this works with the podcast. And then he triples down and he snaps at her.
Yeah.
So,
but again, I mean, going back to the cat defense, he's in pain right this second.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mean to someone in that situation. I'm just better than Joffrey, apparently. It's a low bar, but I'm clearing it.
Seems a rather low bar.
I mean, we got a little bit. I mean, I guess this probably falls into background information. We got some good descriptions of the neck, which is the sort of the narrowing of Westeros between the north and the rest of it.
Yes.
That it's basically an endless black bog with dense thickets of half-drowned trees, quicksand waiting to suck you down if you left the causeway. The causeway so narrow they had to camp on the causeway each night, and it was 9 nights getting through there.
Yeah,
so,
something like that. Yeah.
Pretty miserable.
You can understand. I can't remember what episode, but in a previous episode we talked a little bit about the neck. We gave some background info. You can see why it's a really good defense.
Yeah.
For leading an army through that seems really challenging.
Although, how do you defend it though? If you think about like a narrowing of a valley and the army has to come through the valley, well, you can attack them. How do you attack them as they come along this causeway?
True. There's the Moat Cailin.
Yeah,
which we'll talk about at a later point, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I guess you stand at the northern edge of it.
And put like thumbtacks down on the road or something to pop their tires. So the background you were going to talk about?
Oh yeah. So real quick, they mention a lizard lion. While Sansa's thinking back, Arya was talking about how much fun she had going through the neck and getting into all kinds of things while there, and Sansa was talking about just like you said, how it was just endless bogs, and she mentioned seeing lizard lions, and so a lizard lion is a semi-aquatic reptile native to the bogs of the neck. They live in the water, in slow streams and deep swamps, and they have teeth like daggers.
So you're thinking crocodile, alligator?
That's what I'm thinking,
something?
yeah. Just another name for alligator, maybe.
Sounds good. Sansa has such a nice day. While the day is still nice, with
Right.
Joffrey. She's having such a nice day. She compares their relationship to that of Prince Aemon and Queen Nerys.
I think when she does that is when he comes to her defense. When the crowd is all
true.
around her, they're like, "That's a dire wolf," and she's getting kind of scared. And he comes to her defense and says, "Everyone, leave her alone. That's just her pet wolf."
That's true.
And she says, "He came to my defense like Prince Aemon championed Queen Nerys
Yes.
against Morgul."
Yeah, so 130 years ago, Nerys Targaryen was in love with her brother Aemon. Remember, the Targaryens didn't really mind that kind of thing.
Nope.
But she was forced to marry her older brother Aegon, who she was not in love with, who would go on to be Aegon IV.
Otherwise known as Aegon the Unworthy.
The Unworthy.
So
indeed.
not a great moniker.
No. But it depends whether you go in with that or if you earn it later. If you go in with that, you're just being modest.
Right.
Yeah, if you come out with that, you didn't do a great job.
That's a good point.
She gave birth to a son, Daeron, who would be the second Targaryen king of that name. Childbirth was almost fatal, and she asked Aegon if they could go back to being brother and sister now that he had an heir. He refused and kept getting her pregnant until she died in childbirth.
Yeah,
When Aegon later on, Aegon fell out with Daeron, and rumours surfaced that Daeron was in fact Prince Aemon's son, not the king's son, but the king's brother's son.
Right.
So Morgul Hastwyck voiced this rumour and was killed in a trial by combat with Prince Aemon. So the person who he accused of fathering Daeron killed him.
Right. Okay.
The formal accusations ended there, but more than a century later, the bards still sing of the love between Aemon and Nerys because he went to her defence.
Yeah.
That he would fight for her honour. But it wasn't quite done back in the time of them, because after the death of Nerys and Aemon actually defended his brother from an assassin. So he was he was a member of the Kingsguard. He died defending Aegon from assassins. Aegon stirred the embers again of the accusation, casting doubt on the truth of his son's fathership.
What a guy.
This was probably to do with the fact that Daeron was kind of a good guy and Aegon was the unworthy.
Right.
Aegon was continually plotting against Dorne, which was still not fully in the Seven Kingdoms fold. But Daeron was married to Maria Martell and cared about Dorne.
Right.
And so they were frequently at loggerheads over basically foreign policy.
Sure.
Aegon had a daughter, an earlier Daenerys, also by Nerys, and multiple bastards, but he stopped short of fully disowning Daeron. But as a final act of spite, on his deathbed, he legitimised all the bastards, and Targaryen bastards were known as Blackfires. Mm-hmm. And so this led to the first Blackfire rebellion, which was against King Daeron II when he took the throne.
Right.
These Blackfire bastards rose up against him, saying that they were the rightful heirs.
Yeah. That created quite the mess for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Him doing Aegon legitimizing his bastards like that.
Yeah. Kind of a grandiose story to compare yourself to when all he did was say, hey, stop being mean to her, that's her wolf.
That's her wolf, yeah.
But the other classical romance to which Sansa modestly compares her week-long arranged relationship with a kid who's way less nice than she thinks he is was that of Serwyn of the Mirror Shield saving Princess Derissa from giants. There's not much on this story to go on, but Serwyn got his name by using a mirrored shield to sneak up on and kill a dragon.
Okay.
Their time period is from before the Targaryen age, so they're only really remembered in songs. Nobody really remembers who Princess Derissa was.
Interesting.
But they are,
because if it was before the Targaryen era, how are there dragons on Westeros?
well, perhaps it was a legend fable even then.
Right, yeah.
Who knows? So, comparison with the TV show. So, this Barristan and Renly did not come north to meet the king's party. Sir Ilyn was already part of the king's party.
Okay, yeah.
And Sansa just meets him one day, bumps into him, and is scared witless by his... The actor who plays him is pretty creepy, so it's quite good. So we don't meet either Renly or Barristan Selmy at this point in the show. She is reassured somewhat by Sandor Clegane, but he's not exactly nice to her. So she's sort of like between two frightening guys.
That's kind of how it was in the book.
And the conversations about Ilyn Payne is just Sansa and Clegane with a later arrival by Joffrey. So none of the lines spoken by... All of the lines spoken by the Queen and by Renly and by Sir Barristan are all moulded into just Sansa, Joffrey, and Sandor Clegane.
Right, okay. It's easier for casting, I guess.
Yeah. We don't see Sansa and Joffrey's happy date at all.
Oh.
No, they wander off from that conversation with Payne and Clegane straight to the fight with Micah. But the main thrust of the bullying and Nymeria's intervention are very much captured. And you totally hear the words he calls Arya, which are not very nice at all. So yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, we're still sticking pretty close to the book right now.
Okay, pedantry. So the one I thought of as we talked was, doesn't it say somewhere in this chapter that the king is off hunting?
Yeah, he and Eddard are on a boar hunt.
So they're not going anywhere.
Right.
Why would you spend the day in the wheelhouse?
Why
have you been invited to spend the day in the wheelhouse if you're staying put for the day because the king is off hunting?
That's a good point.
That doesn't make any sense.
And she mentions, one of the girls mentions that it doesn't even have any windows. Right. So you can't look out. So you'll be spending the day in a box.
I've been thinking about which is right. It's a nice day. I think in the show they mentioned that the sun was shining, or maybe that's in the book. I get confused because I read the chapter and watch the part of the show at the same time. The sun was shining, so it's a perfect day to not be in the wheelhouse that you've been trapped in for the last 20 days. I have a theory of why the wheelhouse is actually a good thing to be. So if you imagine the wheelhouse, they probably didn't have much of a suspension. It probably bounced along.
Yes.
I think they've got like springy cushions in there, and it's just like a fun house the whole day. Which is another reason why today's a bad day, because you don't have the bounce of the movement.
That's a good point.
So the pedantry I'd already planned was, they're never going to make it to Winterfell if they take a whole day off for a hunting trip.
Right.
Or, I mean, okay, the hunting trip at least, the king wants to do that, but it felt like Arya and Sansa are off doing other things as well. Maybe they knew that they decided not to go anywhere that day, but still.
Yeah, Kat's racing. She's going to race down to King's Landing to beat him. She could probably wait another week or two before she makes her departure.
And then, so Barristan and Renly and Illian Payne are part of an honor guard sent from King's Landing for the king. All right. Uh-huh. First of all, the king doesn't need an honor guard. He's the king. Right. Everywhere he goes is an honor guard. You know. Right.
When he came into Winterfell in Eddard 1, there was quite the production. So they've got banners and stuff.
My estimate is they're 16 days ride north of King's Landing at this point. That's a long way to send people to form an honor guard to come back down.
Good point.
And then that goes to another thing. So Barristan Selmy is the Lord Commander of the King's Guard. Okay?
Yes.
The king has been away for a quarter of a year at this point.
Right.
What has he been doing? Why was he not with the king this whole time?
Right. Why weren't all of the King's Guard with the king?
Right. We talked about this before. If even one member of the royal family had stayed in King's Landing, you might leave a King's Guard behind. But every single person is in this party.
Wasn't anyone left to guard?
Right. I mean, how old is Barristan? Maybe he needs a whole quarter of a year off, you know?
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right. My last bit of pedantry is the inn at the Crossroads is huge.
Seems to be.
3 stories and room for, she said, a third of 400. So I did my math carefully this time. That's 130 people.
Got out pen and paper.
Why? Is the Trident like Niagara Falls? That's where everybody goes?
Right, all the ruby hunters.
That's it. They don't know that they were smashed to smithereens. They're just little
ruby slivers now.
Just seems like it's way too big.
Yeah. I think part of it is the name. It's at the Crossroads. It's kind of at the area where you can go north to Winterfell. You can turn east to the Vale, west to what the hell's in the west? Casterly Rock, south to King's Landing, you know.
And this is the inn at the Crossroads? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, okay. That's not so bad. Still just seems a little bit big. I mean, that's a big old building right there.
Does seem big.
All right. I think we're good, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So, concluding, I'm really worried for the future.
Yes.
Joffrey's not mortally wounded, it seems.
No, that feels like they're going to have... things are not going to go smoothly for them here in the near future.
Yeah. Unless Joffrey confesses that he was bullying Micah and got what he deserved.
You know, that seems to fit in Wait, no, maybe not so much. Not so much. Joff is gaining on Viserys. I asked you before. I think it was in Arya 1 who had more douchery, Joff or Viserys, and we had unanimously given that honor to Viserys still, as Joff hadn't really done very much, but he's certainly now on his way to tying him up.
It's really just a matter of who was last.
Right.
Who did you last describe to me? It's that one.
Hold my beer.
So as I mentioned, I'm intrigued by that friction between Joffrey and Renly. It's mysterious but fascinating. I'm going to throw out a bit of speculation.
Okay. Yes, I want to hear it.
Let me confess in advance that my speculation is sometimes memory. So it has been known to come true. Right. Apologies if this is a spoiler. Joffrey is half Baratheon, half Lannister.
Yep.
He's surrounded by Lannisters and their lackeys. Cersei, Jaime, Sandor Clegane, Tyrion.
Yeah.
On the Baratheon side, he has his father. Clearly doesn't interact very much with his father.
No, it doesn't seem like it.
And the only other Baratheon in King's Landing is Renly.
Right.
Could it be that the Lannister crew is pouring poison in his ear about Renly in order to keep Joffrey loyal to the Lannister point of view?
Very interesting. Yeah.
It could just be jealousy of his good looks.
Could be.
Well, that's my guess there as to why that might be.
Yeah, I like it. That's well thought out.
Oh.
Yeah. Joffrey...
or well remembered.
Well remembered. In a few weeks, in our news and notes section, when you're apologizing once again for plagiarizing something. So the Stark girls seem really to be unable to relate to each other. Very different in pretty much every possible way. But one thing is for sure, Arya is the much better judge of character.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. If Sansa can't see... Well, I mean, again...
She's love-struck, I guess.
Love-struck. And also, actually, I don't think we really mentioned it, but he was plying her with wine a little bit at their picnic.
She did mention her head was swimming a little.
Right, so...
But it does seem like maybe she's seeing the world through ruby-colored glasses.
Very good. Well done. Well done. Yeah.
Sansa thinks she's mature because she's proper and can act fancy and all that stuff, but she's still rather immature. Still caught up in creating a fantasy world for herself. Like you said, she's not that far off.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the key to all of that...
the single most important ingredient is that your
jag-off.
prince is a good guy.
Yeah. That, I don't know, doesn't seem like he's going to turn out to be a great guy.
Yeah, no, not seeing it.
So I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah, I think so.
Were you pleased with the episode? I know you were looking forward to this chapter.
Yeah, I think so.
Good.
I mean...
Yeah, I thought it turned out very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was more to talk about than I thought there was going to be. So,
are we discussing our own podcast here? Are we critiquing our... I thought we were excellent today. Please like us on Facebook.
I sent him a text, I think it was last night or a couple days ago, and said, oh boy, I don't know how we're going to make a whole episode out of this chapter. And you were like, what? I think there's a lot of really good stuff here. Yeah. So... Yes, you were right. There was plenty of good stuff here. Anyway, okay, so as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com and follow us on Twitter at ghostharrenhall, and you can go out and follow us on Facebook.
If you like what we're doing, you can leave us a review on iTunes or Podchaser. It's a great way to help us out. And tweet us or contact us on Facebook. We will definitely read out viewer mail.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.